I had always thought generosity was quiet. I never announced it, never tallied it in my mind for applause. Money lent, errands run, favors extended. They were small threads in the fabric of daily life, things I did without expecting acknowledgement. My girlfriend, as I had assumed, appreciated them, or at least I had assumed. That afternoon, she said it plainly. "I care about you, but only as a friend." The words landed like stones in a still pond. I remember the way she avoided my eyes, the casual tone she tried to cloak them in, as if friendship could be offered without friction, as if it was the same as intimacy. I didn't reply immediately. There was a pause, long enough to let the air thicken, and I felt the weight of all the times I had quietly covered expenses, small loans that had never been requested, favors that had become routine. Friends don't cover expenses. Friends don't make small sacrifices without acknowledgement. My mind ran through them, one by one. The weekend I drove her to a job interview, the groceries I'd insisted on paying for, the unexpected repair bills I had absorbed. I said finally, "Friends don't cover expenses." My voice was measured even. Not bitter, not resentful, just stating a fact, a boundary I hadn't articulated before. The silence afterward was almost comfortable. She shifted, looked away, said nothing. In the following days, I treated her normally, but with a subtle recalibration. No more small loans. No more last-minute favors. The warmth that had once flowed freely from me was now restrained, filtered through a lens of deliberate observation. The routine of our interactions remained, yet every exchange felt different, weighed by the absence of that quiet generosity. I watched her carefully. The coffee she made for herself, the slight hesitation in her laughter, the brief flicker of expectation in her eyes when I declined yet another small request, they told me more than words ever could. I felt a quiet satisfaction, not in punishment, but in equilibrium. There was a tension in our interactions now, not loud, not confrontational, but tangible. Alone I reflected on why I had given so much, why I had assumed care was transactional, or at least implicitly recognized. I remembered moments from the past year, the way she asked for favors without thinking, the way I had complied without question, the subtle ways my effort had gone unnoticed. It was not rage I felt, it was clarity. And clarity, I realized, often feels like loneliness at first. Then, 3 days later, my phone rang. The voice on the other end was not hers. "Do you remember her?" the sister asked, sharp and cautious. "I just want to know if you remember the support you've given. If you..." Her voice caught for a second, and I realized this was a test of some sort, a measure of awareness and consequence, not a request for generosity. I did remember. I remembered the quiet mornings I had paid for her coffee, the long drives, the small gestures accumulated over months. I remembered because I had never sought acknowledgement, and now, acknowledgement was arriving from an unexpected direction. "Yes," I said simply, letting my voice remain calm, neutral, even gentle. "I remember." The silence on the other end was telling. Not shock exactly, but recalibration. In a single moment, the power dynamics shifted. I had been underestimated, my quiet support seen as something to be taken for granted. Now, through the intercession of someone else, my presence and choices were acknowledged. Not celebrated, not flaunted, simply recognized. I didn't offer more. No elaboration, no moralizing. The line went quiet, then the call ended. I felt a subtle weight lift from my chest. It wasn't victory, not in the dramatic sense, it was validation, the sense that boundaries respected quietly can command respect more effectively than confrontation. The rest of the day passed in normalcy. She reached out, tentative in her messages, testing whether the shift I had imposed would remain. I answered with politeness, with a calm that concealed the recalibrated stakes. The emotional distance between us was no longer accidental, it was deliberate, and in that deliberateness, I found unexpected relief. I reflected on the lessons quietly, without boasting. Support, I realized, is most valuable when it is voluntary, and respect follows naturally when generosity is measured. The moments I had once believed to be invisible were now acknowledged, indirectly, through the sister's interjection. The lesson was not in coercion, not in retribution, it was in restraint, in timing, in understanding that human relationships are calibrated through subtle consequence as much as through dialogue. Later, I replayed the scene in my mind. Her calm statement of friendship, my measured reply, the 3 days of silent withdrawal, the sister's voice confirming recognition. Each moment built upon the last, a lattice of experience that quietly reshaped the emotional terrain. I realized I had grown, not by asserting dominance, but by insisting on my own dignity, by refusing to allow habitual generosity to become invisible or exploited. Even now there is no neat resolution. I still care, but differently. The boundaries I set remain intact, a quiet line drawn without spectacle. She still enters my world, but with awareness. I am present, but I am no longer passive. The sister's call was a single, concrete affirmation of balance, a rare and unmistakable moment where external authority intervened to validate what I had only known internally. And so, I move forward quietly, reflecting on the tension between care and expectation, on the subtle power of self-respect, on the strange mixture of relief and regret that follows unreciprocated support. No celebration. No grand gestures, only calm recognition, tempered by the knowledge that some lessons are learned best in silence, and some consequences are felt most acutely through measured absence. I remember, and in remembering, I have changed.